This is Long Way to the Top, and I'm your host, Shane Bryan. In the words of the immortal AC/DC, it is harder than it looks. These interviews will give you a glimpse into the lives of the artists that we've sung along with, danced and rocked out to. Some go deep into their past and others celebrate their recent releases. But all of them show that regardless of who you are, it's always a long way to the top. There are not many Aussie bands that can say they started in the 70s and are still going strong. This year marks the Angels' 50th anniversary, and this week on the show I catch up with two of the newest members of the band, frontman Nick Norton and bass player Sam Brewster. We take a look back at the legacy of one of Oz Rock's best bands, the Angels. This is Long Way to the Top with Shane Bryan. Thanks, guys, for joining me on the show today. And I've got Nick Norton, the brand new lead singer of the Angels, and Sam Brewster, who is the bass guitarist for the Angels, joining me on the show today. How are you guys?
Yeah, great.
Very well.
How you going, Shane? All good?
Big legacy, 50 years down the track. 1974, the band officially got together. And the band, of course, back then was made up of John and Rick Brewster, Charlie King on drums, and Doc Neeson. I don't mean to put you make you nervous, but that's big shoes to fill right there, right?
Absolutely.
We're used to John and Rick, so I'm sure Sam's even more used to John. So it's all very familiar by this point, but yeah, very big shoes to fill.
So, Nick, you've been in the band for 12 years, obviously doing the drums, and now you've stepped into the front line.
Yeah, yep. I've been doing stuff with John pretty much since I left high school, and Rick since not too long after that. And it's just a very familiar kind of association, and the 12 years of drumming in the band was a good pedigree. But I've been writing songs with John and Rick for that whole length of time, 20 years as well. And it's all kind of everyone just knows what's required. And so when the frontman role came up, I mean, I just kind of just sat there like a one of the troops and just was assigned that role, and I went with that, and I just knew that was what I was going to do. But it's good. The good thing about this band, it's a really strong collaboration of like-minded people that are all aimed at the same goal. So yeah, I was just ready to step up when the time came.
Yeah, and of course, Sam, you've been in the band quite some time as well, and now your brother's in the band doing drums. It's kind of like two lots of Brewster brothers now.
It's exactly that. Yeah. It's it's kind of, I mean, go back 20 years. I mean, who'd have thought that would ever happen? But yeah, here we are.
You grew up with, this all around you.
Yeah.
Do you pinch yourself now going, wow, here I am in the band, knowing that this was a legacy that was, happening before, I was even born?
Yeah, sort of. I guess. Yeah, I never thought that I'd really end up where I am now, I guess. I just thought, that was, I grew up with, having a dad in the band, and it was like always kind of, well, how long is that going to be a thing for?
Yeah.
And then it's just kept on continuing, I guess, because the demand's there. And then, I went down the path of wanting to be a professional musician as well. But I didn't think it would lead me to the Angels. I thought, I'll end up doing something else, whatever that might be. But now it just seems like, I don't know, it's sort of all changed in the last, I guess, maybe decade, where there is still such a demand for all of these iconic bands from that period. Nothing has really kind of come around and replaced that, certainly in the rock sphere, you know.
Yeah, I was thinking about that just prior to the interview. You know, there's not a lot of bands in Australia that can say that they started off, you know, in the 70s, 50 years on, they're still out there touring. Maybe AC/DC, maybe Rose Tattoo. That's
Yeah.
that's pretty much it, really, isn't it, in Australia?
Yeah, I mean, there's Dragon as well, My Sex. There are a few actually, but I mean, none of them. Yeah, you know, most of them have got like only one or two original members remaining, but the demand for their music still remains, and so you know they're still viable in the marketplace and in
It's now a classic form.
Yeah,
that music has become a kind of classical music.
Yeah, exactly.
People love it.
Well, you could say that. I mean, it really is. I think you guys use the term heritage. It is very much ingrained in society. I mean, you look at songs like, you know, Face Again and No Secrets. I mean, these are songs that we play all the time, you know, on radio, and they're songs that the moment that anyone hears it at a barbecue, they're all singing along.
Yep, absolutely, you know? Including millennials and Gen Zers. It's not just boomers and old people, you know. Kids' faces at the shows just light up when those songs kick in. I'm thinking, how do you guys even know this song? But I guess they've got parents and even grandparents who are Angels fans. So yeah.
Do you think having, you know, when Doc passed away and then the torch was handed over to Dave Gleason, which in my opinion was a very clever move, do you think that really helped bring in that new audience as well?
No, I don't know about that. Dave was in the band before Doc passed away because Doc left, and there was like kind of a big kind of social media war over it,
right?
Initially, and they were, you know, it was kind of divided, like people, you know, really divided fans. They were like, it took them a while to accept it, and then they did. Once they came to a show, they were like, oh, he's great, you know, because he was. But you know, Doc left such an impression on everyone, and you know, he was just such a charismatic performance and such a big part of the show. Like, you know, same with Dave. When you know, you're on stage and everyone, you can just see everyone, they're all focused on the singer, and Nick's getting that now too, which is great. But yeah, I don't know if Dave coming through necessarily brought a younger audience necessarily. I think a lot of it's still because our music's still played on radio. So, you know, these kids are growing up with their parents listening to this music, and I think the lack of infrastructure in the recording industry and the music industry, where it used to be like, you know, back in the day when the Angels and all those bands were coming through, there was a lot of mentorship and a lot of like, you know, producing going on from those who'd come before and knew what to do and what not to do. And that's not really happening anymore, where, you know, you haven't got like a record company with a stable of artists that are, you know, really being nurtured and put out there. And because it's just the streaming platforms now, it's kind of become every man for himself. So I think that's a lot to do with it. It's just like there hasn't been a band that's come through and kind of risen to the top where, you know, you turn on your TV and that's what you see, or you turn on Rage in the morning, or video hits at 9 a.m. or something, you know. And
like you said, though, it comes down to the consumption, how it's consumed now. And I think it's a really sad state of affair that, you know, there may be some bands that are like the Angels out there, but they just can't get noticed.
Exactly.
Last year, there was a whole bunch of new albums put out by, you know, let's say classic bands, right?
Yeah.
And apart from, you know, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, who obviously had a lot of money to put behind it, you know, the charts last year, you know, really featured none of them. As a band that's a heritage band, how do you think you would handle a new album?
Well, we kind of, it's, you know, we still make an album and put our best songs forward, and we still put a lot of thought and work into them. But I guess it's sort of more important that it shows that, hey, we're still a band going forward. We're not just becoming a heritage act, just confined to one period or whatever. We're saying, hey, this is us. We still make and write music, and it's more kind of about conveying that message than actually how it does. And we obviously we'd love it to chart really well and have a single or whatever, but I think the exercise in itself is very important, just to show that that's we're still we can still play and write songs that that's
still creative.
Those other, exactly.
And we sell them off the stage. So I guess bands like the Angels can still make a decent income from selling direct to fans, which off the stage at shows or online. But we're probably, bands like the Angels would be lucky to chart again. But then, like you say, that's usually only about a 1 week bump for bands, and then it kind of dissipates anyway. And and we're actually, just like Sam said, it's the act of creating a new album and writing new music, and which we're doing at the moment. And it's that actually can still be very valid. Like, I think some of those old bands are probably making some of them are pretty ordinary albums, but I think when the Angels, we did Talk the Talk. I mean, it's been too long between drinks for us for a brand new album. We've done all these other 40-year anniversary albums, but Talk the Talk was a really good, excellent rock album, and the one we're making at the moment will be as well. So it's like all killer, no filler, and that's what fans will actually respond to. They're like, oh, this band is still valid. They're not 65-year-old dudes that are millionaires writing corny junk that's just going to get forgotten immediately. It's like, this is tough street rock, so it's good.
So you obviously, you've got a new album that you're putting together. When is that due at this stage?
July is what we're aiming for.
Right.
So mid-year, mid to sort of just after mid-year, I reckon, given everything that goes on and how busy we'll be with the 50th year. But July, August.
Any plans to re-record some of the older tracks and start reissuing them?
I hope not, unless we're doing it live.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. said that.
Yeah,
I look, the odd, like Sam said, the odd live thing. But if we're in the studio, we may as well make it new.
I'm very much against doing that, just because I love all the original stuff with Doc on it. I mean, that was the blueprint. That's what we refer to now when if Norton and I are like working out harmonies, for example, in the car or something, we listen to the originals with Doc on them, and not because we don't like the ones with Dave on them, we love them, but that's the blueprint, and that's kind of that captured that energy of what when them being in the studio all night. They literally would finish gigs and go into the studio after the show and record all night, and that's still what I love listening to. And I just don't see, unless we're doing unless like I said, we're doing a live recording, which we plan to do as well, and that's I think that's
old hits.
Yeah, and that's all fair game, but I really don't want to re-record over the top of those. I mean, we did that with a couple of the albums, like Face to Face and No Exit, and Darkroom. Mainly Face to Face and No Exit we did because the Alberts had been acquired by BMG, and BMG weren't doing anything with those masters, so we wanted to keep those records kicking out.
There was also the recordings that you or I don't know whether you recorded them, but the concerts that you did with the symphony orchestras.
Yeah,
I mean, that would have added a completely different style and energy to the whole concert.
Yeah, for sure. They were great, and we have recorded them, and I think there is a recording out of that. From Adelaide in 2018, and we're actually at the moment talking with I think with Days Like These with Diesel, and they might feature that on one of those shows this year at some point. Right.
It just goes to show too, like doing the whole symphony orchestra, it goes to show how well the songs were written, that they were able to be
taken by a symphony orchestra and pulled apart and put back together, you know, and they sound absolutely magical.
Yeah, a lot of that's Rick.
Yeah.
Because of, you know, Rick writing those solos. They're very like much in like that kind of classical, lyrical type vein of. I mean, Rick would when he wrote most of those solos, he would sing them before he played them on guitar. So he would just, you know, and I think he still does that with when he's coming up with a solo, rather than like, you know, maybe the way that I would do it a lot of the time is like you just sort of noodle over it and come up with something that you think sounds great. Rick will actually find a melody and sing it and then work it out on the guitar. And I think that's what adds to why, you know, why people can turn up at our shows and sing Rick solos. Like we went to France a few years ago and they were singing them like a soccer crowd or, but then, you know, it also lends itself to those kind of classical instruments where you've just got those kind of melodies that are played on the strings and
But I'm pretty sure that Rick started with the violin too, you know, when he first started playing.
No, he actually started with piano. He was a classical pianist.
Did he? Right.
Yeah. That was his
pianist.
thing.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, he won at Stedford at 16 on the piano in Adelaide, and then they started the jug band. He went from doing that to playing a washboard, and then when they went electric, he started playing electric guitar. And initially, I think he wanted to be the drummer.
Right. Wow.
But then he ended up on the guitar, and then he had to kind of work out how to do that.
Sounds like Alex Van Halen and Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
I realised that bit of trivia about Rick. I didn't know the drum thing fit in there. I knew all the other bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So the Angels are sort of half the thing you were just saying. There's the blues element like all the other classic rock bands and Oz rock bands, but there is that you know, neoclassical element where when we go to solos and things, quite often the harmony that Rick has fleshed out is, you know, sounds more like a classical piece than a blues piece. You could think of the long line solo, those chords there take a big left turn from the verses, which are far more sort of straight ahead blues / rock territory. And that's such an Angels device that's made the band stand apart from, say, like the contemporaries like AC/DC, who are obviously just unbelievably bluesy and amazing, but it's the Angels always had that little classical edge that sort of gave them an angle, you know, and gave us an angle. No, they're incredible style that you guys have in concert now. Like, you know, with the 50th anniversary, what can we expect? You know, are we expecting classics? Can we hear some of the new songs that you're putting together?
It's all we won't be playing the new songs. There are no plan, like as in, are you talking about the new album songs or? Yeah, not at this stage. I mean, that might come later in the year or it might come next year. Our set list at the moment is the classics, and in between the classics, some of the rarities, going from the early period of the band right through the 90s, you know, with Skin and Bone and Howling and Beyond Salvation and those sort of songs wedged in between the, you know, the really iconic songs.
Right.
It's a 2-set show, so it's it's a big long show, which is great. Bands like that, we're our own support band, you know, so it kind of grows over 2.5 hours into this sort of long epic, you know, so it's great.
Yeah, fantastic. And Nick, your style of singing.
Yeah, well, a few people I've heard about, like quite a lot of fans say that will initially saying the same. They're all going, oh, I like it, mate. I like it. Sort of harks back to the Doc thing a bit more. And I'm like, nice. Does it? Right. Because I think that was more related to vocal timbre, where Dave has kind of got a piercing rock mid-range, whereas Doc had that deep thing and deep theatrical thing. And I'm not even consciously, I was just sort of probably singing more down in that territory just based on what I've, you know, listened to over the years. But and then if I, you know, sometimes snap into a high falsetto thing, but I'm not really trying to, well, it'd be idiotic to try and copy Doc anyway in any shape or form, and or, you know, whether that's stage persona or singing style, but just getting up there. And I mean, the songs are so good, you know, that all you have to do is just turn up and play them, and it if you're musical, if you can sing and you can play guitar, it just takes care of itself, you know.
I think that's important too. You know, you look at you know, with AC/DC when Bon Scott passed away and Brian Johnson came in, he didn't try and be a Bon Scott. You know, likewise, you know, with NXS, the multitude of singers that have sort of come after Michael Hutchence haven't tried to be Michael Hutchence.
No,
it would be silly to try. Yeah.
To me, it's just Norton.
Yeah.
Well, he just sounds like Norton because I've known Norton since I was a kid. And so he does, you know, does the all the phrasing of those, you know, like I talked about the blueprints from, you know, the original recordings. He's got all the phrasing down, but then he puts his Norton thing on it, and he just sounds like, because I've seen, you know, grown up watching Norton front his own band and other bands, and so yeah, it's
and I think
definitely puts his own Norton stamp on it.
The Norton stamp. Nick, you've also performed with the Brewster brothers as well in Don't Tell Malcolm, is that right?
Well, that's the Brewster brothers act, which Sam and I were a rhythm section for John and Rick back sort of pre the Dave era of the Angels, and I loved that, doing that band, and we still occasionally even do the, you know, I mean, the Angels are really busy again, but that was a really good band, and then Rick had the Tassie side project, which you'd be aware of, Don't Tell Malcolm, and that was kind of, I was brought in at the last minute for their first show because what happened there. I was drumming and singing because the original drummer couldn't make the gig. And then we only, you know, we're about a 2 or 3 show a year band, but it's great. We come in and Mick Skelton for the Baby Animals plays drums. He's now a Tassie resident. And Dave Wilson is a local boy who's Rick's friend. And he's the other half of the guitar department. And Kevin Cooney on bass, who's another Tassie music veteran, has played with, you know, people like Renee Gayer and Richard Clapton, amongst others. So it's an all Tassie express except for me. I'm the ring-in.
Well, there's still time to move to Tassie.
That's right. Yeah. It'd be lovely actually if you know, maybe when things are winding down later on. I'm not sure about which department will be winding down, but yeah, it'd be very nice Tassie to live in, I'm sure.
Oh, it is. And Sam, you're not in Tassie.
No, I'm actually in Adelaide.
Right.
So I've been here I grew up in Sydney, and grew up, you know, Nick and I went to the same school, and lived there, for the first 30 years of my life. And then I moved to Adelaide. It was only going to be a couple of years. And my wife, my now wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. She made a good group of friends, and then we realised, you know, it's like half the price of Sydney, so we ended up staying here. Yeah.
Well, if you come to Tassie, it's a quarter of the price, so you know.
Although I think that's changing, right? Now everyone's moving there.
It is. Yeah.
A lot of people are going down there. I think Susie DiMarchi's down there now too.
Really?
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah. Heard she made the move from Brizzy.
Sydney.
Sydney was she? I thought she was in Brizzy.
She grew up in Western Australia, but now she's
she's
great.
around Bondi or somewhere before that.
Right. Look, you guys are really, you know, sort of keeping that legacy alive, which I think is something that is really important for Oz Rock, and it's great to see, like you said, the young guard coming through and just keeping that same vision that the original band had. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're we love it. We're just I mean, I'm surprised, and I know Sam is, that, like you were saying earlier, that there's still that demand, and it's kind of, you know, every year that ticks by, you think, oh, what is going to be happening this year, and then suddenly there's 55 dates in the diary and jam packed over the following 6 months. You're like, okay, the Angels are still as relevant as ever, and we're as busy as ever. So it keeps us you know, sprightly and young, and we love getting out there and playing the songs.
Yeah, fantastic. I'd love you guys to come back when your new album is out, and we can have a look at it, dissect it, take a listen to some tracks, and
absolutely,
for sure,
great.
That'd be sensational.
Yeah.
Sam Brewster, Nick Norton, thanks for joining me on the show.
Awesome. Cheers, Shane.
Thanks,
Thank
Shane.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Long Way to the Top. Hit plus or follow to subscribe to the podcast and head over to Facebook at the Long Way to the Top podcast and give us a like. Keep on rocking and I'll catch you on the next episode of Long Way to the Top.